Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Confess It, Baby.
Welcome. We are so excited about today's episode because it is all going to be about finances for the girlies. How to get your shit together in another sense. I'm trying to say it because I suck at that. And I know you do. Like, we both struggled with our finances.
Yes.
So we're going to be learning a lot, just like you guys, along with us in this episode. Today, we have a very special guest that's going to help us navigate this subject. She is a financial coach, a best-selling author, which we have her book right here, Empower Your Money. And she's also a podcaster. So Angela Duncan, welcome to Confess It, Baby.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
We're so excited.
We're so excited.
I couldn't sleep last night thinking about you.
I was excited about this episode. I mean, I kept telling her, I'm excited about this episode because I'm going to learn a lot.
So many people are going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Angela, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you start in this field?
Yeah, so I would start my story as a kid. I was a survivor of abuse and poverty, and I lived in Section 8 housing, welfare. I started working at 14. I've lived in cars, parks, motels, other people's houses, and all before I was old enough to sign my own lease at 18. And I always thought and just kind of saw other kids at my school. I was like, what's different? Like, why do I live the way that I live? How do they get such a different lifestyle? And so it really just started me on a journey. Like, I need to learn about money. It's a tool. They obviously have it. I don't. So what is it that I'm missing? And so it kind of just started my lifelong journey about learning more about money.
Got it.
Wow.
And what do you think has been the best advice you've ever been given in this journey of yours?
Yeah, be curious. As kids, I'm a parent. So parents will, tell their kids to stop asking questions or, I don't know. But really, the more curious we are about a subject and the more information we have available, the more we're going to use that information and take action on it. So I'm just a very curious person. I think you guys are probably similar. It's why you have a podcast, right? We want the information, but you've got to go find it and then learn about it and take the time to invest in yourself and your own education first. Take action and then know that we all make mistakes. I mean, I've lost a lot of money over the years, but I never stopped trying. And so you get back up, you get back in the game, and you just keep learning.
So you said at 18 you signed your first lease.
Yes.
What was it like at that age? Because I'm thinking back at when I was 18 and I was just nowhere near,
being able to
my mind.
The mind or even financially.
Yeah. So how did that feel? And what was that initiative that you took to say, okay, like it's time for me to like get my shit together, how we said, and move out and start my own life, my own path?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, so the time was a little different, right? We didn't have social media and I didn't really know all of the bad things that could happen in life, right?
Yeah.
It
could be scary.
It could be, yeah. And so I needed to leave my house. That was my driver. I wanted something different. It wasn't a good environment for me. And when I was old enough to sign a lease, I had 3 jobs. It took me 5 years to go through college because I worked so much. But I knew that the only way that I can control my own finances is for me to control where I was living and control what information I was getting and who I was putting around me. And that was my driving force. I guess maybe I didn't have that same fear as some people might have today because we see what the world is like. So that was probably a huge advantage is we didn't have social media, so I didn't know any different.
Yeah, your drive was like empowered basically your fear. Like that's why there was no fear.
Yeah.
And you said you're a mother, you have your daughter in college like you were telling us. What has been like some of the advice you've given her financially to kind of get ahead of the game in such an early age?
Yeah, teach them young. I talked about the curiosity. Most kids are curious about something, so pay attention and then just dive into that topic with your kid because most likely that's going to be a career choice for them. So when my daughter was younger, she was very much into like Selena Gomez and watching TV and understanding how marketing works and how TV works. And now she's a marketing major. But had we not taken that time to be able to encourage her and say, it's okay for you to ask questions and what do you want to learn and how can we teach you more? That was just, I think, a huge advantage for her to be able to grow up and feel like it's okay for her to pursue something that I knew nothing about.
I don't know about you, Ellie, but like, you mentioned how it all starts at home. Growing up, well, even up to this day, my mom never made the best financial choices. You're like, if you have the money now, waste it, use it, think about it later. That made me dig a hole for myself in depth. And now at 28, I'm getting out of it. Has that happened to you? Was it like that?
I think it was more so like my mom raised me to like everything I wanted, like here, you deserve it, you can have it. So then at 18, I was like, well, if I want the iPad, I'm going to buy it. I don't have the money, but I'm going to put it on my credit card, or I'm going to use my student grant to like get myself the iPad that I don't really need for school. It's just
to have it because everybody else has it.
Exactly. So I feel like that mindset, because our parents didn't have that in Cuba, and now they're in a country where they can provide that for us. They saw it more so like, oh, because I couldn't have it, it's for you. But in reality, it's affecting us in a way that now we're adults.
Yeah.
Trying to move out.
And we're suffering the consequences.
And now at this age is when we're actually learning about how important it is to budget, to finance, to say no to things, because that mentality of like, oh, if you want it, you can have it, is not healthy.
And even then it's still rough.
It's still rough.
I may not have the money and I still want to buy it.
Exactly. So, and then it's a weird concept too, because my mom was always about giving it to me and my brother instead of giving it to herself. So she never bought anything for herself. She never spent money on herself. It was for us. And now she's like, oh, I don't understand why you struggle with money so much. And I'm like,
You're the fault. It's because of you.
So it was, it wasn't done with ill intent. We weren't raised like that on purpose. It was more so, our parents saw it as an opportunity, and now they're also suffering with us because they're learning,
suffering with us.
They're learning along with us too, like tax season.
Yeah.
Tax season is a huge conversation in my house because all of us are always lost. We're like, oh my God, what's a 1099? Oh my God, a W-2, W-4, what? Like,
But it's good that you're realizing it now and not at like 50.
Yeah.
And then we're trying to get it together before that.
And a conversation I recently had with my mom and my accountant, who also is like a mom to me, was when I'm ready to have children, whenever that moment comes, I'm going to feel financially responsible to educate them, like, I'm going to have that responsibility, that mindset of like, okay, I made these mistakes, so I'm going to make sure that I know what to tell you guys, how to raise you guys in a way that maybe I'll mess up as a mom, but at the same time, I'm going to have that in the back of my mind instead of just like giving it whenever they want. There's like a purpose behind everything that's bought and everything that's
knowing
taught.
how to save too, like piggy banks and stuff like that. Because I don't want my child to go through what we have been through with our debt.
Yeah. So early on, teaching my daughter to not get an allowance, but to work for it, right? Because nothing is free for us. So every dollar that she would get, we would say, put some of it in a savings account because that's the money you're going to spend, and we're big charity. So give money back. I like for you to set aside a little bit. And for her, it was just like the Humane Society and giving back to the dogs, right? So, but letting her choose that for herself and then taking part of it, investing for her. She had a store at the house and she's always been very creative. So again, it's just like, encouraging that, but she would go buy paper or markers and sell stuff to the family. But that was her way of learning business. And it could be anything from a lemonade stand for boys washing cars or walking dogs, help them learn early what it's like and how much time goes into that dollar, because then they're going to understand when they're spending it, how much time they put. So it's a good thing for them to start early.
They're going to think twice before spending whatever's in that savings.
Yeah. Especially at an early age. If you think about it, like we learn how to talk, we learn colors, we learn everything at an early age. It comes easier to us. I basically learned how to speak English by watching TV.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're teaching that
to
someone so young says a lot. And that's the reason why like some of my most successful friends now that live on their own and have their life together is because they learned it growing up. They learned it at an early age. In my high school, they had a finance class. It wasn't mandatory. It wasn't mandatory.
It should be mandatory.
Exactly. And it wasn't even an elective. It was something you could sign up for after school. And it was free. It was included. But no one did it. No one did it except the few kids that their parents forced them to because they knew.
Yeah.
And I wish I was one of those kids.
Yeah, like my parents never had a savings account. I feel like I probably got one like a year ago.
Yeah.
But if I wouldn't have gotten it, like where would I be now too? Like it's really, really hard.
I definitely do think it should be required, especially in high school. I think that's actually one of the most important things to learn in life.
Right.
Not geometry, not finite
dissecting
math.
a frog in biology.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I wish I would have had a class that would teach me about taxes, that would teach me about budgeting.
Yeah.
Credit cards.
401k or credit cards. That's where they get you. Interest rates.
Yes. I had no idea what an interest rate was until like maybe like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That I was like, why is my debt not going down?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they
why?
still allow banks to come to a college, set up a booth, and give you a free T-shirt to open a credit card. But they don't teach you anything about
The
the credit card.
consequences about the credit card. Oh, it's insane. What do you think has been the biggest financial mistake you've seen people do in their early 20s?
Credit card debt.
It's the credit card debt,
It
right?
is because like especially today, right? Interest rates are 30% on a lot of
Insane.
credit cards. So when you're looking at, going to Sephora or, buying makeup or clothes or something like that, and you're not paying off your credit card every month, then that piece of item is costing you 30% more. Now, would you really pay 30% more for it? No. But if you understood that, then you would either budget and pay cash or just say, hey, that's not going to meet my goals, so I don't need that right now. Yeah. But it is tough because we live in a I want it now society.
Yeah.
And it's
And think
all
about it
over the
later.
place. Yeah. And it's sad, but how do we take that mindset and shift it back to, no, I'd rather have my goals in place. I'd rather have charity that I can give money to. I'd rather save now and not quite live that crazy lifestyle, but also how do I make more money? Like that should be more of a focus, right? Instead of what can we spend it on? How do we create more wealth and more income for our families? And they're going to pay attention to you. And once they start paying attention, they're going to get curious. You're going to teach them what you're doing, and then you break that cycle. And that's the best thing to do. That's the most unselfish thing to do.
How do you think, at least like living here in Miami, it's one of the most expensive cities in the world.
And it keeps on getting more and more expensive.
It keeps getting more and more expensive. There's development everywhere. What advice do you give to not just us that live here, that were born and raised here, but everyone moving in thinking that Miami is like, the perfect city to live in?
But I feel like the ones that are moving in are coming with money, though.
Well, yeah, but even then, like the ones coming from Cuba and like South America, they also come to Miami. Like I have so many Cuban relatives that are like, I want to go live the dream in Miami. I'm like, this is not the dream. It's a free country, but it's not like you have to hustle.
Yeah.
To somewhat make it somewhere. An efficiency is over $1,200.
Yeah.
An efficiency. So what advice do you have to those people that don't know what they're walking into, that don't know the harsh reality of living in a city like Miami, like New York, like LA? Like, what advice?
So first, renting, don't buy, because then you get stuck. Roommates, if you really have to live here, then you got to get a roommate in order to split some of that cost. Know the person that you're living with so that you don't have some crazy person there.
Like something just happened recently.
Uh-oh.
About that. Yeah. No, I'll tell you later.
Okay.
It was in the news.
But really look at other cities. There's other cities. You can go over to Naples. You can go up to Tampa, Jacksonville. You still get that Miami kind of lifestyle a little bit, but for a lot less money.
I actually lived in Naples and
Did
it was
you?
so expensive. I had to move back here.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was really, really,
Yeah,
it was really bad.
But do your research.
Yeah.
Just like anything that you're going to invest in. If you're investing in your apartment, you should be doing research and figuring out, does this fit in my budget? So I'm not willing to go into debt to live in Miami if I can't afford it. But sometimes when you get here, you just don't know any different. So learn your lesson, get out of your lease, move away, or just figure out a way for us to create more income for you. And there's so many opportunities. We were talking earlier, you can have multiple streams of income doing the same thing, but for different companies. So if you're willing to spend that extra time to make the money, great, you live here. But if not, then find a better way.
Yeah.
But with all those like extra incomes that you have, like that's stressful. Like
It
I
is.
don't know
It
how
is stressful.
you do it. Like I try like not
I
even
wanna
to
move
give
out.
you I tried to not even give you more tasks than you already
Yeah.
have. So like balancing the mental health that comes along
It's
with
also
trying to make
like-
ends meet.
Well, we talked about last episode, picking the right career.
Yeah.
I personally, I love my career. Did I pick the right one? Maybe not. But I'm satisfied. I'm happy with the one that I picked. But it's one that requires a lot of hustle, a lot of being on top of it. I can't just rely on one job. Most of the jobs in my field are freelance gigs where they're day to day, or they might last 1 month, 2 months, and then it's over and I'm on to the next job. And in order to pursue my dream of moving out of my parents' house, I have to have several gigs in order to save enough to move out, whether it's renting, buying. I mean, I'm nowhere near buying, but you have to have that mindset of I can do it. I'm going to make time for myself. Whenever the time is available, I'll sit down and relax. Like this whole week, I have no time to sit down and just breathe. This is my breather right now.
Yeah.
This is my time off.
So here's my challenge to you, because you are, an entrepreneur.
That's what we want. We want the challenge.
Charge more.
Charge more, rest.
No, charge more for what you do.
I was like,
not
charge the
rest,
battery.
sweetie.
Yes. No, I think as women, we tend to
Yeah.
want to prove ourselves and
Yeah.
then ask for money, where a man will come in that job and they will just ask for the money up front. We have to prove ourselves. That's part of why you're probably hustling a lot, is because you're still proving yourself. But who are you proving yourself to?
It's crazy that you bring that up
Yeah.
because I was having a conversation with a really close friend of mine a few days ago, and he literally told me, "You're selling yourself too short. You
Yep.
need to overcharge."
Yes.
And I was like, I'm so embarrassed to do that. Maybe it's the way that I
Or
was
scared.
raised.
Like, why are we so scared of like doing, like charging more and then
Yeah.
getting no, never
And
mind. We're not gonna work with
I
you.
think that stems from insecurities of maybe not being the best or comparing myself to other people doing the same thing in the field. And I'm like, well, I don't have a drone, so I can't charge this much. When in reality, it's not about the equipment you use. It's more so about
Your
the technique,
time,
the art,
everything, yeah.
the creativity.
Creativity.
Exactly. So, but I do struggle with that. So it's crazy that you bring it up because I don't know how to tackle that.
Yeah, there's two things. One is we can be confident in what we do, but if we don't feel worthy enough, then we're not going to charge enough.
Yeah.
So it might be the worthy side that you have to kind of just self-reflect a little bit and figure out why you're struggling with that. But I think that if you can really own it and charge more, you're going to work less and still make the same amount of money, or you might work the same and make a lot more because you're charging more for your services. You have an expertise in what you do. You're obviously proving it across multiple businesses. You have to understand that you're in order for you to get ahead and reach like your financial goals, you're going to have to look at that and charge more.
What do you think of the whole comparison thing in the industry? Whether, you come from a real estate background. So here in Miami, I feel like every other person you meet is trying to get into the real estate world or talking about how they're struggling or how they're succeeding. Me in my field, marketing, content creation,
There's so many
journalism,
social media managers out there. So
Exactly.
many journalists.
How do you go about that? Like not getting in your head, comparing yourself to the talent that's around you, comparing yourself to the competition.
Honestly, like I block it out.
That's what I was going to say. I hire out my social media so I don't watch it. I don't want to see what other people are doing because that's where that comes in. And then 2, no one else knows you better than you. So why are you comparing yourself to other people? You don't know them.
That is
you
so
have to
true.
be confident in yourself so that you can just like you said, block out the distractions. If being on social media is not needed for what you do every day, then just stop being on it because then you'll never see what other people are doing. You can't compare yourself to what you don't see.
Yeah, when I first started in journalism, I would watch other reporters do their thing out in the field and I'm like, I just want to be as good as them. And then once I stopped looking at those videos of everyone doing the same thing, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be me. And that's how I got my first job. Once I blocked everybody out.
Yeah. And
That's
how
what you
you
gotta
get
do.
better is you hire a coach or a mentor.
Exactly.
So they can tell you what you need to do to improve instead of you comparing to what other people are doing.
And trying to copy and paste because you're trying to copy that person that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And we're all different. So at the end
We're
of the
all
day,
so
no matter
different. And
how
that's what
hard you
makes you
try to
special.
copy them,
Yeah.
you're not going to be them.
Exactly.
So,
I don't want to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to be me.
Yeah.
Exactly. What are some key financial goals you think that young women in their 20s, early 20s, or early 30s should prioritize? Because, for example, I don't even have a 401k, and I feel like I need to have something along that sort.
Yeah. So if hopefully you've tackled your credit card debt or you didn't get into debt to start
Almost
with.
there.
So
Got
that's-
one left.
Because that's the first thing. Because if you don't focus there and you're paying 30% interest, most likely you're not going to earn 30% anywhere else. You're never going to get out of that hole. So first thing is the credit card debt. Second, yes, I believe retirement should be the first thing that you do. So if you work for an employer and they match, then 401k, yes. But if you don't do a Roth IRA, we have no idea where the taxes are going to be in the future. So what a Roth does is it allows you to put money in and take it out tax-free. So whatever it grows to, you don't pay taxes on it because we are paying taxes now on your income. So it's not a write-off. You don't get to take a deduction on your tax returns. You're just putting money into an account, letting it grow, and you take it out during retirement. Because I think what a lot of people don't think about is you can get a loan for a car. You can get a loan for a house. You can get a loan to go to school. I can get a credit card to pay whatever, right? But when I retire, there's no loan for that. And unfortunately, like me, I'm in this sandwich generation where I'm helping take care of my parents because Social Security does not pay for anything or much of anything. And then I've got a daughter in college. So I'm balancing the two. But I still put my retirement first because I don't want to have to rely on anybody else to take care of me when I get older.
So what do you think would be better? Because I personally have been trying to decide between the 401k and the Roth IRA.
Yes.
Yeah, what do you think would be better? It depends on the interest rates.
Do you work for someone that offers a 401k?
Yes.
Do they do a matching?
I'm not sure.
If they don't, don't do it. Because a 401k only has limited options on what you can put your money into, and the fees are a lot higher because it's an employer-sponsored plan. I would go with the Roth. Now, if they do match, like if you put 3% of your salary and your employer matches that 3%, great, because it's free money.
It's going to increase, okay.
But if they don't, then I would do a Roth IRA.
Got it. And that Roth IRA, everyone, whoever has the account, obviously, can get that money out before retirement. They can't touch it.
Yeah, an
so
IRA,
even if you want to buy a house, like something big, you can't touch it.
No, it's
either or.
Yeah, I mean you can, but there's penalties.
Okay.
But it's a retirement account, so you're not touching that until retirement.
Gotcha.
So it's basically like a savings account.
Yes,
that you can only access after you retire.
Right, which is great. It's like handcuffs, right? You can't take your money out because you need it for retirement. It's the whole purpose of you setting it up. But yeah, you're going to invest it either in real estate or stocks, and then it'll grow and you'll contribute to it every single year so that you have money for retirement.
How do you think women can effectively start kind of saving and investing in their future, depending on their day-to-day, like saving money from their salary, from their check, bi-weekly? Like, what do you think we should do?
It depends on the person. If, you don't have a savings account, definitely start there. We want to, what if it's going to happen to you? So you want to be prepared and not go into credit card debt to fix your flat tire or, maybe take a vacation because a friend's getting married. So we need some money set aside. We talked about the retirement account as, number 2, but also just thinking about like, what do you want in the future? Do you want to buy a house, or do you want to be a person that takes vacations? I like shoes, so shoes are in my budget, but I give myself permission to have some fun too. And when you do that, then saving doesn't sound like so boring, right? Or such a hard thing because we don't want to save. But what is it that's important to you, and make it visual, whether it's on your laptop, on your phone, something in your house. Know that everything that you're doing every day is working towards that goal because it's visual. And when you tell your mind that you want something, it's going to look for that opportunity. We always hear this saying, like, if you're going to buy a car, all of a sudden you see it all over the place.
Oh my God, yes.
Not because it wasn't there before, but because you told your brain, I want this. Yeah. So why aren't we doing that with our financial goals?
I feel like am I manifesting this every time I would see the Jeep all around?
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're part of the sandwich generation, taking care of your parents and your daughter, plus everything else you have to pay for. What's your process like when it comes to budgeting? Do you do it monthly? Do you do it yearly? Yeah. And like, how do you break it down?
Yeah, I do my budget every month. So I use QuickBooks. It's an online program. I connect it to my bank and my credit cards. All the information goes there so I can at least look at it. I want to know where my money's going because you can't budget if you don't know where your money is going.
And it's hard to keep track in like a sheet for Google Doc or something.
Yeah. Or the apps. The apps are so tiny on your phone. But there is an app I will recommend. It's called Rocket Money. And what it does is if you connect it to your credit cards in your bank, then it'll tell you all your subscriptions. So gym memberships, Netflix, Hulu, whatever, all in one place. And then you can look at it and decide, do I really need all of these subscriptions? I cut out TV a long time ago because YouTube's free, podcasting is free, and it makes me go talk to people instead of watching TV. So if there's subscriptions in your app, then cancel them. And that app will actually help you cancel it for you. So you're just adding more money back into your bank account that you can use towards your goals.
Got it. I've heard of something called, I think it's a high savings fund. What is that? How does that work?
A high yield savings account.
There we go. That is.
The only reason why people are talking about this right now is because interest rates are high. A high yield savings account a couple years ago was paying you 1%. It wasn't popular. But right now you can get a high yield savings account, and this is good for the money you're setting aside, for like 4.5%, 5%. There's a website called bankrate.com, and it allows you to look at different checking accounts, different savings accounts, different credit cards, so that you can compare to whatever it is that you need in your life right now. But it also shows you what banks are paying the highest. Usually they're online only banking. But make sure there's no fees, and then look at the transfer, because sometimes they won't let you transfer money for a couple of days. And if you need it right away, that can be kind of scary. So make sure you're looking at that fine print.
So it's kind of like the CDs, I think, that some banks
it's a savings account that just offers a higher interest rate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Nope. A CD, you're going to lock that money in. So be
CD is
careful
like
with that too.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know which one to use from both. Have you heard of CD?
No, I'm super lost right now.
You're learning, sis.
I feel like I'm in a course right now.
So a CD is a certificate of deposit. You walk into your bank, you say, I have $1,000. And they say, great, I'm going to take that 1,000. I'm going to pay you 5%, but you can't touch it for 6 months. So it's just an exchange. It's kind of like you're loaning the bank money and they're paying you
And
interest
you're making
for
some
that money.
back.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
which is not a good thing to do if our interest rates are going to be going up, because you're giving 5% now and you could get 6% later. So you always have to pay attention to the banking world a little bit.
And it doesn't even grow that much, right?
No, it
when I say
doesn't.
for 6 months, the grant is not going to grow that much. So.
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically getting more debt from the 30%
Credit card.
credit card interest rate than like what you're making by doing the
Yeah,
CD.
you're
Yeah.
literally not to get
So that's
anything.
crazy.
Pay off your credit cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, definitely.
So we did touch base a little bit on this, but just to go back to it, what are some resources or tools you recommend young women to have to track their finances and stay a little organized?
Yeah, so I mentioned a couple, but you need to pick one that you're going to use. So even if it's just a pen and a piece of paper, if you're going to use it, then that's great. I am not techie as much as I wish I was, but I still use QuickBooks Online because it connects automatically to my bank. I hit update and then I categorize everything so I can see where my money is going. But it could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be an app. There's quite a few out there. I mentioned Rocket Money, which also allows you to track your spending too. But it's got to be something simple enough that you know you're going to use. Otherwise, no tool is going to work if you don't use it.
And you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, you know, because it's not as easy to have this in high school or a course, how do you recommend learning about being financially responsible and learning the terms like CD, for example, that I just learned? And even
It's your learning. That's a good thing.
yeah, and I feel like this whole week I've been learning, these past few days I've been learning a lot because tax season. And I hadn't really taken the time to sit down and understand how taxes work, like the difference between a 1099, the difference between a W-2. I still don't know the difference that well, but I'm showing more interest. I'm more curious now. At what age and how do you recommend learning about these things?
Yeah, as soon as possible, learning that. So for clarification, a W-2 is when you have an employer and they pay you a salary. 1099 is more of a contractor. And the big difference between that is a W-2, they normally take out taxes and then you get it back. 1099, you pay taxes later. So that's the big difference between the two. But I mean, start as early as you can. You know, once you start thinking about like, maybe I want to have some future financial goals, I should be starting now. And Dave Ramsey has a great program offered free a lot of times during churches. And it's a good, easy way to get started into finances. It's not everything that I usually teach and recommend. But if you're just starting on your financial journey, it's a great way to start because he's going to teach you how to save, how to get out of debt, how to start investing. And then once you have a good foundation, you can build from there.
I'm curious to know, so there was a point that I consolidated all my debt because the interest was killing me. Is that something you recommend people do if the debt is a lot, if it's coming from different credit cards? Because I know it did mess up my credit score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they don't always tell you that. And you don't always know the fees and the interest rate and how long you're going to be paying that off.
Yep.
So it sounds great in theory, but you've got to find the right program and the right company. I look for nonprofits because they're really trying to help you instead of they're earning money. And a lot of times people don't always know all of the hidden stuff because what they're doing is they're going to your credit cards and they're trying to negotiate for you. They're telling you not to pay your credit cards, which is hurting your credit. And so while you think it might be good long term, if you need credit now, it's going to take you a long time to get out of that hole. So do kind of what you were talking about, you know, stack it and figure out how much do I owe and on what credit card? And there's kind of two schools of thought. You're either going to go after the one that has the highest interest rate, or for our immediate gratification generation, pay off the one with the lowest balance because then you're like, oh, done, I got this. I'm going to go on to the next one. And it just feels good once you pay it off.
Yeah, I feel like there were a lot of hidden fees that I wasn't sure where my money was going. And at the end of the day, I had to just stop whatever they were doing and then take over the whole credit cards myself. And I paid it off much quicker than I would have done it if I kept on with them.
Yeah. And
That's
you guys,
interesting.
you can also call your credit card companies and ask them if there's anything they can do, whether they're going to reduce your minimum payment so that you can work on paying off other credit cards. They might work with you on the interest rate, but the answer is always no until you call and ask.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you just finished paying one.
I just finished paying the one at the highest interest rate. It was at a 29%. And at first I didn't understand like what that percentage meant until, you know, down the road, I would make my monthly payment, and within a few days, I had my next monthly payment scheduled, and that amount wasn't going down as much as I thought it should have, considering the fact that the payment for that card was pretty high. It wasn't, we're not talking about $50, we're talking about over $200. It's a really big amount. So, you know, as someone who has a lot of other debt, like not debt, but like just bills to pay, my insurance, my phone, my car, I was like, why is this card not going down? And I sat down with my accountant, and she kind of broke all of my debt down. And we went one by one, calling the card, finding out the information. And she's like, we're going to tackle this one first. You're still going to make the minimum payments of all the other cards, but we're going to try to pay a little bit more of this card, more and more each month.
Right.
Instead of going out to Brickell on a night and spending $100, you're going to take those $100 and put it towards your payment for that card.
And that's hard to do.
It's hard to do, but I managed to do it. It took me a few months. I managed to do it. And now I just feel like I got a huge weight off of my shoulders because I no longer have to pay over $200 for a card. Now all my other minimum payments are pretty normal. And now I'm on to tackle the next one with the next highest percentage. I don't owe as much on it, but it's still a high percentage that I want to just completely eliminate. Yeah. And I've learned that the hard way, which I feel like it could have been avoided.
Imagine all the money you had extra if you didn't have that credit card.
Yeah,
like
this is my Coachella credit card. I used it for 2 trips.
Oh,
That's
wow.
it. That's it. Nothing
That's
else.
it?
Just 2 trips. Yes.
No, my Discover.
But it adds up.
Swipe, 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 swipe.
It adds up.
It
Most
so
of my debt
much.
it has come from trips.
Okay.
That I'm like, well, I don't have the money now, but my mom taught me to live life, and like I don't have it now, but I'll worry about it tomorrow.
YOLO.
And then now I'm just like, damn, I didn't need to go to Coachella. I could have watched it on YouTube, you know, like.
But you got the experience.
I got the
Sometimes
experience.
You
You
like
have to have a
shoes.
balance
You know,
of
you
it.
I got the
gotta balance
experience,
it.
but going the second time around when I knew I didn't have the money was not needed. You know, I could have told myself, you know what, I'm gonna make myself a goal of making it in 5 years, and I'm gonna pay it cash.
And you could have had a Coachella party at your house.
Exactly.
Invited
There's like
friends,
other alternatives.
Tell them to bring alcohol and food, and it's so much, you know, less expensive than going out on
That was
Brickell.
actually the first, it's, you know, Coachella season. So
is.
the fact
It
that I
is.
finished paying off my Coachella credit card was a
Right
pretty
on
good
time
feeling.
for
I was like, you know,
Coachella again.
exactly.
Here it is again. Let's go.
But it was a great feeling, and you know, it kind of like I was like, oh my god, am I getting old that I'm celebrating the fact that I paid off my card? And I was like, no, that should be a feeling that everyone has.
And
you know,
share
like,
it. Share it so other people know.
But you know, I have a fear that now I'm almost done too, that I'm gonna find myself in debt again. Because I want to splurge. I want to buy new shoes. I want to buy a new purse. Like, how do I manage that? Like that mentality of, now that I have more money, let me go splurge again. And it's gonna,
especially
I feel
now
like
that
it's
you're working.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be an ongoing cycle that, I mean, it's the way I was raised at the end of the day, that I'm just not gonna be able to get out of it. And like, my boyfriend is always mad at me because I'm like, I'm gonna go splurge now. He's like, don't do it, save up. And I just like, I can't just find myself saving. Like, I want to use it.
Yeah, so it's something with your mindset that you've got to work on internally. But I mean, if you've created a budget and you're still putting money aside, have some fun. It was like what you said, you know, we do have to live life because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. Exactly. And I would hate to feel like I have saved so much money and gave up, you know, everything just so that I can live tomorrow. I want to live today too, but I do it within my budget. And so just understanding and giving yourself grace that you're going to have that feeling. And hopefully you put your credit card away when you have that feeling.
So how do you, like, how do you budget your shoes, for example? Like the things that you like that you don't need, but you want, you like, how do you budget for that? How do you know what amount to include for that month to spend on those things?
Yeah. So, I mean, I work in a commission environment, so that can be kind of tough too. But when I do pay off all of my bills and I've set money aside toward my retirement, then I have a separate savings account that I'll put money into, and then I just use a debit card. So I'm not using a credit card, which is something I'm going to have to pay back later, but the debit card takes the money right out of there. That way I'm only spending what I've allowed myself to budget, right? And you mentioned insurance too. I used to own an insurance agency. Know that every time you have insurance renewal, right, like your auto insurance, whatever it is, reach out to your agent, and ask them to shop it, because they're not going to do it automatically. We don't have time to, but if you come to us and say, hey, do you mind shopping this? I have a responsibility to do that for you, but ask every single time it comes up for renewal.
What do you mean by shopping, by that term?
Yeah. So if you have auto insurance, say, for example, with Geico, you can go online and you can shop the other insurance carriers to see if someone else will offer you a better rate than what you're paying right now. Sometimes Geico can be cheaper. Sometimes Allstate's cheaper. You know, when I owned my insurance company, we had access to 5 or 6 different auto carriers, and I could just put your information into a machine, hit a button, and I would have a rate. So it's not like it takes us a lot of time to do that, but it's your responsibility to reach out to me and say, hey, my renewal's up. Can you shop my rate and make sure I have the best rate for me right now?
Because if not, is it that they'll take advantage and charge you even more?
It just automatically renews.
Happens?
Yeah. So they're not going to do anything unless you ask for that.
I didn't know that.
Interesting. So I'm very curious about this. What are your thoughts in going 50-50 in a relationship when the significant other makes more than you?
No. Goes back to, asking and charging more, right? I think it should be equal as far as like, what do you make? What do I make? And what are our joint expenses? Now, I wouldn't say for him to pay for my shoe budget, but whatever the household expenses are, I think should be based on your salary. And have an open conversation with that. Be honest about what you make, what your bills are coming into the relationship, because 50% of divorces, or marriages end in divorce, and most times it's because of money. So have that conversation very early on, and then work on goals together. Maybe you want to take a trip together, so you put money towards that, but make it a joint decision. And I do think that most men want to take care of their woman, and this is a good way for them to at least allow us to have a conversation with them and then come to an agreement together.
Love that, because I feel like, nowadays is such a big topic, especially with everything so expensive. And usually men tend to make a little more, as sad as that is, but like, it's the truth.
I was like, when is the right time to bring that up when dating? Is this something you have in an initial date? Like, hey, like, how do you feel about going 50-50?
I feel like to me it was brought up really quick.
Or is it something that you bring, when you have that, comfort, that trust with the person?
3 months
maybe,
in, 6 months in.
I mean, sometimes it takes more than a year
deep.
But it's scary because you never really, like, I don't talk about my finances with anyone. It takes me a moment to like open up. So the fact that you're dating someone and then down the road you start finding out like, oh, this person doesn't know how to budget, this person is not responsible with their money, or this person expects me to pay more than them because I'm making more money than them,
Yeah.
When is the right time to hit that topic?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on the person. But if you think about if someone's going to hire you for a job or for a project, they're going to interview you. Mm-hmm. So they can decide whether or not you're the right partner. Why are we not doing that when we're dating? If you feel like someone might be longer term, have that conversation. And it could be something like, I saw these cards on Amazon, like 365 questions for couples. So it's not just about money, but also prenups. And what does your lifestyle look like? What are your goals? And it'd be nice for us to know that before we say yes to a ring.
Yeah.
That way you know that this could be, long term, but we agree on some topics and we have to have some discussions about that first.
It's like, when you propose to me, will the ring be bought with a credit card or a debit card?
Are you going to finance it or are you going to pay it right there?
What credit card will you use? It's true though, because then maybe down the road, you're the one that ends up paying for that ring.
Yeah, because his debt becomes your debt too.
That's crazy to think about.
And weddings too. That's a good topic.
Yeah.
Weddings
so expensive.
are so expensive. How do you even begin to budget a wedding when dealing with the rest of your life?
Yeah, let's say you don't have a savings account, okay? Maybe like maybe like 2 or 3 grand in there, which is not much. And your parents, they don't have money. They're not going to pitch in. So it's just you and your significant other.
Yeah.
What is the best way to kind of budget for something big in your life, like a wedding, for example, or even a baby?
Yeah. I mean, for the wedding, if you don't have the money, you're going to have to figure out what kind of budget that looks like. And then you can ask for, can you donate to the wedding fund in lieu of a gift? Don't buy me another dish, right? Don't buy me another piece of soap or towels that I don't need, right?
Yeah, so those registries are
right,
pointless.
Because we live in Miami and it probably looks like you live in a closet anyway. So I don't want more stuff, but it's okay to ask for people to contribute to, the wedding. But in return, maybe we're providing food or, music and a venue. You have to keep that in mind too. And perhaps you do a destination wedding, might be a little bit cheaper for you. And it might be a little bit more for your guests, but you're going to not have to feed 100 people. It could be that you feed 50 instead.
True.
I mean, you're seeing more and more destination weddings nowadays. I feel like everyone's going to the DR or Mexico, and the weddings are beautiful over
And
there.
cheaper.
And
Yeah,
cheaper.
and you get a whole vacation. So
But
everybody
then we, the
will be
guests,
like, all right, wedding and a vacay, we're
and
going.
the people like us that get invited, we're like, credit card. Woo.
Woo,
No.
swipe, pay for it
We're
later.
trying to change that mentality.
We're
not
working
doing
on
that.
it, but it's not going that great.
I'm going to have to skip out on some weddings this year.
because
Hey,
the card is paid off.
We live in a virtual world, so why can't we
Exactly.
zoom into the wedding
We can.
instead?
I feel like
No,
there was a
doesn't-
time that people were zooming in, like
Yeah.
2020 and everything. Like
I
there
mean,
was a thing.
it comes down to making sacrifices in
Yeah.
order to like live a better future in a few months down the road. Like instead of paying $800 for a flight ticket and a hotel, you use that money to pay off your highest credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
Even
like
though it
also
sucks,
I have
but-
some trauma when it comes to living paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for someone who does live paycheck to paycheck or like found themselves living like that and no longer live like that, but they still have that trauma and that fear of money?
Yeah. The psychology around money is very interesting because most of our brain is formed by the time we are 7. So if you're a business owner or if you work, could you imagine a 7-year-old making money decisions for you? So you have to think about like, what were you taught as a kid? What were some of those early memories? And I've done this activity quite a few times when I speak is we'll write down what that memory is. And then I put it up on the board, and 99% of the people have negative thoughts when it comes to money, but it came from their parents. So while you're not likely going to completely erase that, it's time for you to tell a different story. What are you telling yourself every day? What do you give yourself permission to do? And you've got to kind of change that and keep working at it. And, you know, I do exercises where and it sounds funny because we've got this mirror behind us, but I look in the mirror and I'm like, is this the best version of myself? Is this where I want to be? And because I've spent so much time learning about money, and I'm a Christian woman, and I believe that God has put me on this path because I'm going to teach other people. And I get a little emotional about that because it really is a problem that we could solve. Like credit card debt is a something that could go away with some education and with some action, right? It's not like something, you know, an incurable disease. This is something that we have control over. And it's my responsibility to keep teaching other people so that hopefully their eyes open, they change the way that they're living, and then people around them will learn and change too.
That's the goal with this episode.
And also like having a positive mindset, because
Yeah.
for a few years there, I went into some depression because I didn't know how to get out of that hole. And I started having these, you know, thoughts of how did I go to school, get a master's degree, have my parents come from a whole ass other country to see their daughter struggling to move out to pay her debt, you know, and I went into this depression where I didn't know how to get out of it. And I let that number affect me instead of going out of my way and learning, okay, there's a solution to this. Instead of, you know, hating my life and laying down in bed and wondering, oh, I'm going to miss this payment and it doesn't matter because my credit score is already low. Instead of doing that, why didn't I wake up one day and say, I'm going to learn about my numbers, about my finances, and I'm going to make a difference, and I'm going to take it one day at a time. And 2 years down the road, I'm going to look back and laugh at this and say, ha, it was a mistake, whatever. And a lot of people are consumed by that.
Yeah.
I think
It's hard to get out of that hole.
yeah, and a lot of people don't talk about this, and it's kind of like, you know, a dark thought, but the suicide rate in cities like Miami is so high, and people don't talk about it. And yeah, there's a lot of personal and mental issues, but a lot of those mental issues come from financial problems too, of not knowing how to tackle it or finding yourself in a situation that you just can't get out of
You're
it.
stuck. You're losing your home. You lost everything. Like, what do you do?
There was this, like I mentioned, I have a beauty salon with my mom, and there's this homeless guy that used to live across the street, and it's really sad because everyone knew him because he owned one of the most beautiful homes in the neighborhood. He lost his family because he became an alcoholic and started spending all his money on alcohol, and debt just kept rolling up on him. He lost his cars, he lost his business, he lost his own home. He ended up on the street, and it was sad to see, but it's a reality that so many people live. It's not just mental issues, it's problems like finance too.
Yeah, most Americans are one event away from poverty or being homeless because they're not saving correctly. And we as humans are very giving. Like, we want to help people, but we're so afraid to ask for help when we need it. So in that instance, I would challenge people to just ask for help. Start somewhere, even just like the tiniest thing, right? But if you don't take action, then nothing's going to change. So you've got to ask for help.
It's true.
Perfect. Angela, thank you so much for joining us today.
Wait, before
No, we're not finished. We're not finished. I was just
I'm
gonna
not ready to say goodbye.
She has more questions.
I have to show you my 1099.
No, I was just gonna say, what would be the best advice right now that you can just give to our listeners who are tuning in?
Yeah, the most unselfish thing you can do is take time for yourself, to give yourself grace, to invest in your own education. But just block that time. You know, for me, it's the way that I start my day. I don't have any kids at home, and I understand, you know, lives get crazy and busy. But when I wake up, I take 5 minutes. I just go outside. And, you know, I thank God that I'm here again today and that I have a roof over my head. And then I just start to think about, like, what am I currently working on? What are my goals right now? And how can I impact other people? And when you make it about yourself and educate yourself first, people think it's selfish, but it's not. It's the only way that you're going to make a difference in the way that you're going to change your own cycle and your own habits in your own life is by taking that time and putting you first.
You want to add something?
I think that's very important. And we live in a world where sometimes that comes off as being selfish, and it's really not being selfish. Is at the end of the day, you represent yourself in this world. So why not put yourself first and take care of yourself first so that you can help others then when you're at your best self. And that's a big misconception. If you can't help yourself, how are you supposed to even help others?
Yep.
Yeah. And having an open mind too. I feel like there was a point I'm really big on affirmations. I'm like, money flows to me with ease. And I literally say that every single morning. And then once in a while I get like just random social media gigs and stuff, but it's just being like positive. Like, stop worrying about money from like paycheck to paycheck. Like, there's going to be other income passive coming in.
If you're kind to the universe will be kind to you.
And give back.
Yes.
I feel like I've also heard that when you give back, it comes back to you too.
Yeah.
So in a
So
positive way.
If I'm having a down day, I'll just pick up the phone and call a couple people that I know and say, how can I help you today?
Yeah.
Because the more that you give, the universe comes back and has abundance for you too.
Exactly. Perfect. Angela, where can people find you?
Yeah. So Empower Her Money is my brand. Instagram, TikTok. My podcast is Empower Her Money. And then the book, Empower Your Money. I wrote it because it's about you. It's not about me.
I'm going to read it first.
On Amazon. But it's simple things that you can implement. I wanted to make a book for people just getting started on their journey so that they can have some things that they can implement right away.
Perfect. You want to add something?
Is pink your favorite color?
It is. I'm so excited that Barbie brought it back. Thank you, Barbie.
I'm a pink girly too. So as soon as I saw the pink, I was like, yes, I wonder if it represents money.
Yes.
Does it?
All right, guys. You want to add something, or are we wrapping up?
No, I think just, like Angela and Jen agreed, if you're having a hard time with finances, wake up tomorrow feeling refreshed and ready to conquer, and just change the mindset and know that you're not alone. Ask for help.
A positive mindset, because money flows to you with ease.
Money.
If you work hard for it and just think positive.
We're already rich, so
there we go. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, find Angela as well. We will be back here next Tuesday. Until then,
Tuesday.
bye.